Let's get it started. Hello, Eric.
Man, I like to pull that.
Yeah, see how quickly I get dressed up. Awesome. Let's start with some wins before we get into today's topic. So, as always, anything you got going on that's good? Personal, business, Eric?
Yeah, I had some closings this week, listed, got a client under contract, listed that house. So that was one that one of our team members picked up at an open house. So that's been good. So yeah, team's crushing it for sure.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, two clap. Cool. Who else wants to share a win? Julian. Is this the Julian that I'm thinking of? I don't know.
Yeah. Hey,
That
Randy.
is. What's up, Julian?
Hey, guys. Nothing much really. I just had to study for the life and health insurance exams, state exam, and I just passed on Tuesday. So that's my
Good.
little win. Yeah. So I'll be doing life and health insurance and real estate at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I got your email, so good job, man. I'm getting that done so quick.
Thank
But
you. Appreciate
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
it.
Too glad.
I was early on my two flap.
Cool. Valley, what's happening? Valley, are you able to share a win?
Yes. So I had a closing last week. I'm getting ready to list another property. I've got picked up another buyer. We've been out looking. So then I've got some other folks that are getting ready that through the follow-up. I've stayed in touch with it. One of them I've stayed in touch with over a year and who's now ready to buy. So that's all exciting. Lots of activity.
Wow. So follow-up
Yeah.
works, Valley? I thought it doesn't work.
Right?
That's amazing. Good job. Two clap. Cool. Anybody else want to share a win? I know everybody's cameras are off for various reasons, I'm sure, but anybody want to at least get their audio open, share a win with us, personal or business? Mark, maybe Mark. Oh, there it is, Mark.
Hey, I don't have a particular win except the fact I'm in the middle of studying for my real estate exam. So I've been working real hard on that and passing a couple of the quizzes. And I did the first final and did okay on that. So it's just a lot of work and I'm learning a lot of new stuff. I'm excited to get started on it.
Nice.
Awesome.
What state are you in?
California,
Okay.
nearby you. In fact, I went and saw a house with you and Jeff Rakowski, the couple homes that we
Oh,
did
okay.
the tour of. I was on that tour with you guys.
Got it. Yeah. So he's you're a Kingdom 320 guy.
I am, yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
good to see you here,
In
man.
fact, I was going to ask you, is that house that you're showing here pretty quick that you guys are getting ready to remodel? It looks like you have it gutted. Is that one of the ones that we looked at?
That is that one. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Well, good to have you here, Mark.
nice.
Two clap.
Awesome stuff. Yeah.
Someone just, I think, put in a chat. If I was not at work while on the call, I would have my video up. No worries, Zachary. I know. Well, good job for being here, for showing up.
Yeah. That's all that
Uh,
matters.
So I'll share a win and we'll get into it. So my win is actually what Mark brought up. So we are doing what I call a rehab subgroup, which I think I've mentioned them here before.
Yeah.
So we're putting one together actually, and it's this Sunday. We had to pick a Sunday because the owners of the investment property, they go to church actually on Saturday. So we did it on a Sunday. I usually like to do them on Saturday, 10 to 12, but we did it on Sunday, or we're doing it on Sunday from 3 to 5. We have, I think, 27 people registered to come to this property and see it completely in the gutted stage, like literally. So it will be fun. It will be fun to walk through a property that's at that stage. We're gonna have the GC there, general contractor there, the hard money lender there, maybe a couple other vendors that are involved in that deal. So you get to meet, not you, but whoever comes there, will get to meet them and understand the construction part, which, for a lot of investors, that could be very intimidating. when they're
Yeah.
getting started. So yeah, that's a win. It's going to be a fun Sunday, a couple hours, and educating our local community of investors, realtors, and really anybody that wants to come. So
Awesome.
good luck for that. Good stuff. All right. So I am gonna share my screen today because I have some stuff I want to show. So let me do that. And today's topic is, what is it, Eric? What's today's topic?
Yeah, so it's pretty much crushing it with open houses to get more business through investors. So kind of talking about how you can leverage open houses as an agent to work with more investors. And then also on the receiving end, if you're an investor and you're thinking like, why am I going to run these open houses? I don't want to. Well, this is going to be a good topic to say like, hey, this is why you run them. And this is how you can add some value into your business. So
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, like Eric mentioned, if you're an investor, I want you to look at it from a lens of expectations that you should have for the realtors that are doing open houses for you. Okay.
yeah,
Because there's a lot of good realtors and there's a lot of bad realtors, right? And to me, I know when I was running our investment company for 7 years, I was in charge of sales. One of the things, I was a director of acquisition and sales. So I had a sales agent on the team and a couple of buyers agents, but there's no way she could have ever handled doing open houses on all of our flips at the same time. So we created a VIP open house list. Guess who made the list? Agents that were actually very, very professional in running open houses. And today it's part of that. I want to kind of educate you guys on the systems that I got used to as an actual investor myself, and what I was expecting when I was putting my inventory on the market with agents on my team. And then we allowed open house agents hold open houses for us, and what were our expectations from them. So instead of me waiting for those agents to come to me with how great they are, we just set the ground rules from the beginning and told them, this is what we want you to do. Yes, we want you to do open houses, but I want you to see it as an amazing opportunity for you as well. It's a two-way street, and you should be grateful that you get to hold our open house as well, because it's vacant, it's staged, it's beautiful. That's what agents want. They want that type of a product for open houses, and it's not as easy as some of us might think to find good properties to hold open houses at. And investors are an amazing client for that reason, because pretty much all of their properties are going to be vacant. They're going to be staged in most cases, which are awesome to have open houses at. So one of the things we did, and I'll get into that in a moment, before I do actually, little cliffhanger, I want to just do a little housekeeping. So if you are not on our YouTube channel, please subscribe. Maybe I usually put it in a chat. So maybe Eric, you can put the link of our YouTube channel in a chat and our Facebook group. Cool.
yeah.
So you can subscribe there, and we load up all our recordings of these in there. We also paste those in our Facebook group as well, if you want to access it through there. And then, of course, for engaging with our community outside of these trainings, that's where we do that part, right, in the Facebook group. So Eric is going to put the links in the chat. So if you're not part of both, feel free to join, and let's continue our conversation that way. So coming back to the topic. So one of the big things that we required all of our open house agents to do is answer these 9 questions. How many guests stopped by? What feedback did you receive on the floor plan? How did guests like the finishes? What was the general opinion about the listing price? How did guests feel about the location? Did you meet any potential buyers for this property? Where did the guests hear about the open house? Can you provide any recommendations on how to make this home show better? Does the home need any maintenance? Parentheses, cleaning, staging fixes, landscaping, odor control, signage repair, etc. So we came up with our own questions that we wanted to know as the owner of the property, right? This is hence going back years ago when I was running the investment company, I came up with this process, right? Because there's just no way that one listing agent on my team can handle all open houses. Impossible. But we as investors wanted our houses opened all the time. Like, why not? It's, to me, it's just an opportunity to get more people to see my product and build awareness about my investment company. Because we always had material and collateral at the property about who we are, which our company's name is CT Homes. It's still in existence. It's still running. I'm just not a partner in it now. I'm overseeing the investor agent organization that we have nationwide. But to this day, these systems we're using that I created years ago. Now, if you're an investor, this is what I want you to start thinking like, oh, and maybe some of you can speak. This would be a good, has anyone here actually had another agent? If you're an investor and you're not licensed yet, have you had an agent hold your open house before? And if so, did they provide you feedback and how? Anybody had that? I guess not. Nobody yet? Okay, no worries. And I can't see the chat, Eric. So, because maybe someone did and they just can't speak because of where they are. Maybe they're at their job or something. But
Randy,
I asked that because
I can comment.
yeah, I can comment real quick. Sorry, I'm eating lunch while doing this, but I mean, I am licensed, as you know, so I've held open houses for our own flips. But you know, last summer when we had 3 on the market at one time, I obviously needed help since I couldn't be in 3 different places at once. So yeah, I would ask other agents to host at the other locations, and I would always ask them for feedback for any comments that guests would have.
now, did you give them the questions like what were, you're used to our system, but did you actually provide them questions, or you were just basically hoping that they would give you the feedback?
I mean, I didn't give them this specific list of questions, but I would, prior to them hosting, I'd say, just, let me know how many people stop by and just what kind of comments that they were making.
And was it easy to get the feedback, or did you have to kind of chase them a little bit?
Kind of both. Some
Yeah.
people, as soon as they locked up, they would just text me back with some feedback. Others I'd have to chase down. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the common, right? Like you get half and half, right? Like I said, some agents are good and they understand it, they take it serious, they know this is this reflects on them, so they take it really, really serious, right? When they hold an open house, and they should. And some just to kind of do it haphazard, right? They're a little bit more self-centered and they don't really are thinking too much about the actual seller who owns that property. They're just looking at it for getting business. And I get it. That's why realtors hold open houses. They want to get business. But if you really think about it, you're doing the open house to give exposure to that property, to sell that property. And that seller would love to know what is the opinion from the public. Because we as realtors have our own opinion about the property, and sometimes we might not want to share it, right? And I'm in that boat many times where I'm like, oh man, like I don't know, this is probably too of a sensitive of a topic. Like for example, like I was selling a downtown condo in San Diego recently, and my client loved Mickey Mouse, and he had big stuffies, man, of Mickey Mouse, like on the sofa chair and like in just random places, like Mickey Mouse stuff. And like, I knew that this was a sensitive topic for him because I mentioned it gently, like, hey, we would like, whenever we take the listing, of course, we walk through and we give recommendations. And one of the things we say, like, if you want to try to depersonalize the property, and I kind of made a general statement, and he quickly went like, I'm just not moving my Mickey Mouse stuff. I was like, so we realized that was a sensitive thing. And so we just kind of backed off. Did I agree with it? No. But guess what? then the feedback from the agents will probably say that, right? Like, hey, it probably would have been better if that wasn't there. And it did. And it's better it comes from someone else than me. And so I look for that, not only from the realtor that's doing the open house, but also from the people's comments that came to the open house, right? And then I provide that to the seller and then let them make a decision. Do they want to continue getting these negative messages and have that negative impact? Or do we want to remove the Mickey Mouse? Their call, right? And it was the same for us as investors. I was looking at this. So an example would be Kevin actually held an open house for Jadel, one of our agents on our team in Southern California. And Kevin, who just spoke, this is his feedback to us, Jadel, who's the listing agent of this property, and allowed Kevin to hold the open house at this property this past weekend. And this is our marketing assistant, Isabella, that emailed Kevin. Kevin replied to these questions. 6 groups came. Most seemed to like the floor plan, like the potential to knock out the wall between the 2 units to create a large single-family home. They like certain finishes and thought others needed updating. It is priced appropriately. They like the location. However, one guest did comment about the freeway noise. One guest seemed like a potential buyer. MLS, Redfin, and open houses is where the clients came from. It would help if the vacant unit was staged and if the seller's belongings were removed. There are several boxes of stuff and random items lined against the walls. So this was not an investor property. This is a lived-in property. But look at that. Point number 8 is a perfect example where now Jadel can go to the seller and be like, hey, do you think we can do something about this? Right? Because again, it's not coming from her directly. It's coming from Kevin and the people walking through the property, right? And then last answer to question 9, the unit that is occupied could use some cleaning, but obviously people are still living there. The kitchen is 1805. Oh, in 1805 is outdated, but still functional.
Yeah, that's the address. It's 1805 and 1807 are the 2 units.
2 units, yeah. So this is really important, right? So imagine we keep doing open houses and at this property over and over every weekend, and we get this back from every agent. Literally, you're going to start seeing a storyline from it, right? And some of the things are going to be very similar, are going to keep coming up. And I bet most agents are going to answer number 8 very similar to what Kevin wrote. And then at some point, hopefully, the seller is going to be like, all right, fine. You know what? Let me talk to the tenant. Let me get this thing cleaned up. Maybe, or this one is vacant. So they can go there and get it cleaned up, right? This was a unique listing, this as far as like how this went down and they rushed to put it on the market. But the point being is this feedback is very important. And I'll share a story of when I was running our flipping company, how important this feedback was for us. There was one property that stands out in my mind like so clearly that had different levels, which is not a great thing for a house to have different levels throughout the property. That's not normal. This property had it. And also the living area was open, but to access the backyard, you had to go kind of outside on the side. There was a door by the kitchen. You would go out the side door and get to the backyard. So there was no direct access to the backyard. We didn't really think too much about it, right? From a rehab perspective, and our project manager similarly didn't really think through that and just was like, did not open up the back where maybe we should have and put a slider there. And we listed the property. My sales team listed the property and we started getting feedback, no offers. And we kept getting the same feedback. The steps, right? The multi-level step thing, which we couldn't fix. But a lot of the feedback kept pointing to that it's not functional because you can't access the yard from the back of the property. It's a good size yard, but you can't access it except the side door, right? So we kept seeing this over and over. We're like, crap, man. Like, so then we had in our meeting, we decided that like, look, we should take this house off the market. Let's knock out sliders in the back so it's flows nicely right from the living area into the backyard, so it's not on the side door. And then when we did that, we added sliders. At that point, we're like, you know what? Let's make the yard the focal point of this home, because obviously the different levels is annoying people and it's taking their attention to that. Their attention is going to that. So let's take their attention away from it. And let's make now the yard the focal point, especially that we're going to have this amazing sliders leading into it. So then we put a TV, we mounted a TV out there, we put in a fire pit, and then we staged it with like patio furniture, right? So now we listed it literally at the same price, and we sold that thing within days, right? I think we spent about $5,000 total to do everything, but I could tell you it was worth every penny, because we did not have to drop the price. We sold it at or above. I don't remember if it was above. I know it wasn't below our list price that we had it on previously. And it went and it sold quick, right? So these changes, and I wouldn't say they're little changes, but to a rehabber like us, that wasn't that big of a deal. And honestly, we should have done it beforehand, but our project manager didn't. Whatever. That's the product I got and received to sell. We attempted to sell it, and then we got this feedback. And then we decided that, you know, maybe it's worth going back, taking the home off the market and doing these changes. And it worked amazingly. And it was honestly all thanks to all the feedback that we received, just like this one from Kevin. So that's why I put so much emphasis on this. And if you're a realtor approaching investors to do open houses for them, like, approach them with these questions and say, look, here's what I do for my clients when I work, you know, when I do open houses for other agents or for investors directly. I ask these questions, these 9 questions, or I answer these 9 questions after each open house. Let me show them to you. Is there any other thing you would like to know? Would you like me to add any other questions that I should answer? And I usually will do that Sunday night or first thing Monday morning, right? And it will make you look very professional if you're the realtor approaching the investor, stating like, hey, I take open houses very seriously. You know, every open house or after, you know, I after the open house, I answer these questions. Is there anything else you would like to know? I guarantee you're gonna get them on Sunday night. And if you say that, make sure you do that, so we don't have to chase you to get it, because that is the most annoying thing, that if we have to chase you to get the answers to these questions. And when we had our VIP open house list created, when the market was more in the buyer's favor or more level, and we wanted to continue doing open houses or our flips, we had an open house agent VIP list that were allowed to hold our open houses, but they would get strikes if they did not send us the answers to these questions, or if we had to chase them. If they had 3 strikes, they were off our list, period, right? So that was a very strict system that I created, and it worked, because then we dictated how we want to receive this feedback and by when. If they can't play by our rules, then you can't hold our houses open. I need them to respect the opportunity, and I will respect what they do for us, right? That's how I approached it. But I want you to think about this from the other way as a realtor approaching investors, and you come out of the gate stating, here, this is the thing, this is what I do. I take this really serious. Here's what I'm doing. I'm telling you that investor is going to take you really serious and give you a lot of respect right out of the gate. And they will think you must have done 100 open houses and it could be your first one if you come up with this script right up front. I'm telling you, it works, right? What this could lead to, essentially, is when the market is slower, meaning it's not a seller's market where things are flying off the shelf in a day or two, which is starting to happen here in San Diego, and I know it's already happening in other parts of the country. When you have these relationships established with solid investors, you will potentially make it on their short list that might get something like this. So CT Homes, the company again that I ran, they, to this day, right, keep flipping. When the market was slow, last fall, beginning of this year, this is from January of this year, look at all the open house opportunities that they put on this Google Doc. That the only people got access to this Google Doc are ones that actually knew of them and built a relationship with them and did a great job at open houses for them, right? And provided the feedback that I'm showing you. So they have an internal system, simple Google Doc, their property address, all the different time slots that they are making available for open houses for agents to hold open. And then the realtors that got access to this list would go there usually first thing on Monday to lock themselves in and reserve an open house for that following weekend. And look, pretty much everything here was reserved when I took this screenshot back in January, right? Because again, agents want to do open houses at vacant homes. It's the best product, right? To do open houses at. It shows amazingly. Buyers have usually an amazing experience walking through the property, right? So if you do this correctly and you approach investors correctly, the way I'm telling you, you will have these type of opportunities that are kind of like a hidden off-market open house list, right? That no one knows about. They're not being advertised to agents unless you know this investor, right? And you made it on their list. So this is something that you want to ask about. Once you start building that relationship, say, hey, any future open houses, you guys have a process of how I can reserve, let's say, next Sunday for a property when it, when you guys buy the next one and it's ready. Some of them might have a process, some of them might not yet. So maybe you can even help them come up with a system for it, right? That could look something very similar, like just a quick little Google Doc. Next thing, I would encourage you to have a nice professional packet made. This is an example that I found back from 2014 in my files that my agents still probably use to this day. I mean, at least I encourage them. We have it in our marketing resources. It's a simple thing. Please use this packet for more information regarding this home. Please leave this packet at the property, okay? This is not a packet that a potential buyer will take with them or an agent. This is supposed to stay at the home, provide more information about the home. And it was pretty simple. You would have the listing sheet there. Scope of work, let's talk about that. Like, we always provided the scope of work to the realtors that were holding our open houses. So I would encourage you guys, investors, right, that are on here right now live, and if you're listening to it later, I would highly, highly encourage you to do that. Create the scope of work, provide that to the realtor that's holding your open houses, because I can tell you and guarantee you that a lot of buyers are asking those type of questions. Like, oh, what was renovated in this home? Equip the realtor. And then if you're that realtor, ask the investor for it. And again, I bet you by just asking that, you will really stand out. And they might not have it the first time around, but if you keep asking and say, look, this is really to help me sell your property better, I would really encourage them to do it. And you might just basically say, look, if you don't have the summarized version, like you guys see here on the screen, right? Can you give me the long version that you guys might have used with your contractor? And let me summarize it just based on what you guys ended up doing with the contractor. And I'll create it, send it to you for approval, and I'll put it into this packet that I'm going to have at the property at the kitchen table for anyone to look at, right? Very important. I think it's not that hard to get from an investor. Sometimes you might have to massage it a little bit to help them create it, or at least the version you want, right? Because you don't need that 8-page scope of work that they might have with their contractor. We don't need that. We need this simple exterior, interior, what was remodeled, kitchen, bathroom, boom. New, done. Then we just had the school report that you can see here in the packet, and then the tax property card. That's it. Pretty simple, nothing too crazy, but that was the packet. And again, if you show this to the investor and say, look, here's the questions that I'm going to answer for you, and I'm going to also create a packet for your open house, for your property at the open house. Can you provide me a scope of work? Right? Again, this will make you look professional. Trust me. Right? And it will actually not only make you look more professional in front of the investor, but also in front of the people walking into this property that are looking at the property. And if Eric could second this, and many experienced realtors will say, open houses lead to more business, right? And if there's a neighbor that's nosy coming in and they see you being very professional in how you carry yourself, how you present yourself, the packet that you have, they might ask you to list their home because they were impressed with what you've done at that open house and the experience that they've had. And they quickly envision themselves like, I want this type of agent selling my home, right? So you're doing it really more as who you are and as your brand and how you carry yourself, right? And with that, automatically you get respect from both sides, the investor client and the public that's coming in. And maybe before I go into tips, Eric, anything you want to add on anything I said? Because I've been talking for a while.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I guess like we use open houses for business as an agent, like especially for my investors. I know one of the things we wanted to touch on was one of the benefits that we give that kind of goes hand in hand with open houses, because the questions that Randy's asking, he's asking for feedback, is we'll actually do punch out lists for all of our investors. So any of my investors where I'm like listing a property, before we list it, me and the team get together, we walk the property and we take detailed notes in terms of what we're seeing. The reason I do it, a lot of my investors are probably like, I hate this guy, why is he doing this? But details matter. When you're flipping a house, anytime that I walk a client through a flipped house, I pick it apart more than if I'm just walking a house that's lived in.
Yeah.
Because if you flip it and you do a not great job, I'm judging it. And then if I get to the end, I always tell my clients, hey, the decision is yours, but they missed a lot of small stuff. So did they miss a lot of big stuff as well? Now, I know most investors don't. Most investors are taking care of that. But the problem is, if you're missing those small things, I'm telling my clients that tends to be what most agents talk about. Like I've seen it on all of them. So if you're missing light switches, there's paint touch-ups, drywall, stuff like that. So we try to add that in. The open houses, so I always try to get the largest turnout I can possibly get. So we do, and Randy, like I think this is just like some of the stuff we've talked about with EXP, but like you do branded signs, 30 of them going into a neighborhood. We do iPad sign-ins. We do, me and Katie do kitty goodie bags with candy and toys and our business card and pamphlets. And we have a brochure. So anybody that goes to our open house, there's a brochure, and it's an entire pamphlet that explains who me and Katie are, why we got in the business, how long we've been in the business, how many transactions we've done. I've had more people like come to our open house and like literally compliment us and say, hey, this is like a really professional open house. It's done really well. We're not just showing up. It's in the MLS and we just call it a day. And then if somebody shows up, that's awesome. If nobody shows up, that sucks. We're showing up and we're going every bit of eyes we can get onto it. If you're somebody that's driving through a neighborhood and you see one of our signs, you can follow the signs without ever pulling up your phone and you're going to find the house. We do folders that are branded with our business card in there. The same packet that Randy puts together, we do something super similar. I actually do market updates. So like I do a Tampa or a Cincinnati market update in there with all the statistics of what we're seeing.
That's good.
And I always,
Yep.
yeah, and I always let people know, I go, hey, we want to educate our clients to the best of our ability. And even non-clients, we want you to know what's going on in the market. So there's an information sheet for what you're seeing. We have the property information. So just like an MLS sheet. And then depending on the property, we'll also include like a property disclosure and stuff like that. Because people always have those questions. Hey, is there anything the seller mentioned about this house? So we'll include those as well. So I think standing out, like we as realtors use open houses to get clients. And I think investors, they should know that.
But you bring, let me interject. You bring up a good point. So some of the properties that, we were listing, maybe previously we bought it with a huge foundation issue, and it was on the listing, the previous listing. So it's like, if a realtor potentially looked at the old listing, they would have seen like, wait a minute, this house had amazing, like terrible foundation issues. I wonder if this investor fixed it. So instead of allowing agents to even have that thought and ask and wonder and assume, why not just have that part of your packet? Like, yes, there wasn't the reason our investor bought it for X amount is because there was a massive foundation issue, and here's what they did. and here's the report from the engineer. Everything is, stamped and done correctly. Here's the foundation scope of work. That would make it part of the packet, right? So you bring up a good point, because those are all the things, objections that you need to start. You got to be ahead of them and answer that objection before they even have the objection.
Yeah. I always, so then when I leave the open house, our iPad sign in, we get all of the client's information. So when they leave, I just text them and say, hey, what'd you think about the house? Is there a gross? One, top of mind. Two, I take their feedback and I forward it. I'll typically just copy and paste the message and forward it on to the agent, so it's in their words. And then I'll always give my personal opinion. So when I leave, for a lot of my investors, what I'll do is I'll say, hey, one of the things are fixtures. A lot of people think the fixtures could be done better or something like that. Or, people didn't like the flooring in this room. Maybe don't use it going forward. I don't think it'll hurt us, but maybe we're able to sell it. So we do stuff like that. We make notes as much as possible, but more realistically, and I love this, the team up in Cincinnati now, they're doing cookouts. So they got bored doing open houses. They'd have a couple people come through and they're like, dude, screw it. Let's cook some burgers. So now they knock on the neighbors' doors and they go, burgers are on us, come over. And Manny actually just listed a house this week from that. One of the neighbors walked by, they thought it was the coolest thing ever. And they're like, hey, will you list our house when we're ready? So he just listed that this week because of it.
Yeah. And if I'm the investor and you approach me, that you say, hey, not only do I give you this feedback, and not only do I create this packet, and also we would love to do a cookout. Are you okay with that? What investor is going to be like, no, I don't want attention. I don't want.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's as many eyes on the property as you can. And right now I'm in Florida, which is the #1 amount of agents in the entire United States, which is fun. So you have to stand out. So if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're just showing up and putting one balloon on the sign and then walking inside and sitting there for 4 hours on your phone, you're not doing your job. So you have to try and stand out. You've got to try and you've got to have some things that keep people going. And ironically enough, you'll pick up clients, but two, investors, sellers, people like that will take notice and they'll say wow, he's doing stuff that nobody else is doing. I wonder if I can talk to him and see why he does that. What's the feedback? What's going on? And it's always, we go to other agents' open houses and I pick up new ideas all the time. So
I think I mentioned this, months ago, but the first sales agent that we hired and brought on a team when I was running the sales department came from an open house, because on Saturdays, I always drove around with my business partner to check out our rehab projects and also comparables in the area, just to see and kind of keep a pulse on the market. So we would pop into these homes, and then there was an open house and we met this girl, and she carried herself very professionally. And she also understood the language of ARV and Mayo and all the things that investors talk about. And we gave her the opportunity to be our listing agent in-house for our flips going forward from that open house. That she helped and presented herself professionally. And Kevin, you know who that is. You've known Risha from.
I was just about to say, is that Risha?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we met her at an open house. Right. So it's if you take your job professionally and seriously, you never know who's walking through that door and how are they judging you and observing and what it can lead to. Literally, you have no idea. And it can happen one day and it could change your whole career.
Yeah. There's a guy, the first open house that we ran down here was actually an investor, and the house was really pretty. So the agent was also the investor. We called her hey, can we run an open house? Yeah, go ahead, do it at any time. So we actually ran I think we ran 6 or 7 open houses on this thing. And he was just every time he was amazed. It was, the market had slowed down here. So he kind of knew it, but we provided feedback. We told him we're the work looks really good. This was some of the concerns. We had some questions about septic. Go ahead and forward me any information you have. I'll forward it to them. So we had all this stuff and he loved it. And he stayed in contact. So he's hey, any properties you send, I'll pay you a finder's fee and stuff like that. So that's the first one. I didn't know. I just called him. I'm hey, I'm looking to run some open houses. And he was yeah. So after I did, I'm hey, it's a beautiful house. I can tell you flipped it. or whoever you're representing flipped it. And he's like, we're the representatives. And I was like, okay. So
Awesome. All right, so let me go into the last couple slides. All right, cool. So tips. So when you're doing the open house, see if there's any off-market inventory anywhere around your open house. And this might require you potentially going there the day before. So if you're holding an open house on Sunday, maybe that will require you drive around the area and see, are there any like properties being rehabbed and worked on by other investors? It's not hard to look up a property address if you're a realtor through a tax reporting services that we have access to, and reach out, right? And start understanding the product around there. There might be things that are already almost completely finished and about to hit the market maybe in a week or two. So imagine you're doing an open house and there is a property, one or two in a proximity, right? That's very similar to your home, or maybe it's got an extra bedroom or whatever, right? And then a client walks in or a potential buyer walks in, and then you let them know, like, hey, by the way, if you, for whatever reason, don't like this one, there is a couple properties that are in the area that are being worked on, that are off market. And based on what you just told me, I think one of these could work for you. Would you want to go see them now? If that's an opportunity, of course, right? That's available. Or it could be a property already on the market too, right? So one suggestion is to consider doing an open house with a lender maybe, so you can potentially leave the property if you can go look at that off-market property already. If not, then at least you tease them with it, and then it's an opportunity for you to reach out to them, and they're going to be pretty eager to talk to you about it because you're talking about something that no other realtor knows about yet, right? And now you have leverage, right? Which is what you want in a very, very competitive market as a realtor, because there's like Eric said, there's hundreds of realtors everywhere, right? Now, in a low inventory market, like we are in some states, including San Diego County, and when things are flying off in a day or two, one way to convince an investor to still allow you to hold the house open, even if it goes under contract, is to say, look, if I get any clients from your open house, if you allow me to hold it, even if you open escrow or go under contract, a day prior, I would still love to hold the open house. And if I get any clients from that open house, I'm willing to give you 10% of my check, let's just say. Come up with that percentages. But imagine you said that to an investor. If you came to me and said that, and by the way, no one ever said that to me. And I've been through several little markets, right, in the last 10 years or 13 years. I've never had an agent say that to me. But if they did, in a tight inventory market where we, the owners, the sellers, the investors, have the upper hand because we have the inventory that you want to hold an open house at, imagine you came with that approach. I think I would think a little bit differently and be like, you know what? I like this agent. He gets it or she gets it. And you know what? Yeah, I know I'm going to get an offer within a day or two, but whatever. Let's let them hold an open house. And if they are true to their word, why not? It can generate an extra, whatever, a couple grand from any deals that they get from this open house, right? Now, I don't know, it would have to be a more of a trust situation because, me as an investor, I'm not going to be chasing you around and checking with you. So you have to be the man of your word or a woman of your word. But just alone, if you came with that idea to me as an investor, man, you would have so much respect, like, from me.
yeah,
Like, I would absolutely maybe consider allowing you to do an open house, even in a market that's like seller, it's a seller's market. Did you want to add something to that, Eric?
yeah. So, and I know we've talked about doing this before, but doing neighborhood only open houses as well is huge. And where it can like really benefit is you invite the neighbors. So one, as an agent, you get the door knock and you have a reason. And we always try to do neighborhood only open houses, at least one. And we'll door knock. We'll say, hey, come join us. Like it's just going to be neighbors. You can come see what your neighbor's house looks like. And then we'd always ask for our investors. We'd always say, hey, like, this is really great. It's going to help boost the comps. We're going to sell it. You know, we typically sell for the highest amount. Do you know any other, like, typically when we're doing this is just agents on an open house will say, do you know anybody else looking to buy or sell? We would always ask, like, do you know any other homes in the neighborhood that, you know, are an eyesore? Because neighbors always have a house in mind that they hate driving by. The grass is high, the roof is messed up, or something like that. And we'd always get responses of like, yeah, like 1, 2, 3 Main Street's ugly. Like it's got old windows. They don't take care of it. It's trashy. Sometimes too, they'd be like, hey, look, there's renters in there. It's just, they don't really care about the property. So then we would take that address, write it down, and reverse prospect it for our, you know, investor and try and get another deal.
Yeah, which again makes you look amazing in front of the investor that you're looking for opportunities for them. Perfect, man. That's a great share. And then the last tip that I have in here is have a literally simple sign, right? That's standing up somewhere in the kitchen, maybe one in the kitchen, one in the bathroom, you know, if it's a 2 levels, but somewhere where it's like, it's easy to see. And maybe it's just red writing on white piece of paper, right? Put in one of those stands. And it says, ask me about off-market properties we have available. That's it. It works, man. I'm telling you guys, this works. People will ask you about it. Not everybody, but some people will be like, hey, what's the off-market properties? Especially in the tight market, like some areas are still in, where inventory is low. This will get conversation started. Trust me, right? There is nothing better than letting people know, like, oh, by the way, those are off-market properties because I have relationships with investors, such as the house you're in. Imagine this property when it's being rehabbed. No one knows about it except me because I have a relationship with an investor. That's the access that I have. Would you like me to look through my list of off-market properties to see if anything matches what you're looking for? Like, why would a buyer ever say no to that? I've never ever had a buyer say, no, you know what? I don't want to consider anything off market. No, I only want to look at things that are on the market. Like, said no one ever. Like every single buyer was like, yeah. And guess what happens? If they have a relationship with a realtor that's kind of shaky, or they're not really being taken care of, or they don't have a buyer agreement signed, guess what happens? If they're probably going to start working with you, right? Because you have access to off-market inventory. And if you use it correctly, if you have this type of a sign, if you learn how to move that into, or, you know, incorporate that into your conversations, I'm telling you guys, it works like a charm. And here's some scripts that we'll finish on here before we break, if we have time. So here's a couple simple scripts that you can use and maybe engage in questions. And towards the end, it's tied and related to what we talk about with the investor relationships. So in the beginning, you know, your simple stuff, what brought you by today? Great. Other than that, what else is important to you? You will now get the nugget with this specific question, right? This is a trust question that you can always anchor back to when you follow up with them later. Other engaging questions: do you live in a neighborhood? Do you rent or own? How are you finding properties? If they say they have an agent, here's a few questions you can follow up with. Great. How did you meet that agent? What's the name of that local expert realtor that you're working with? How long you've been looking? Have you sat down and did a planning session with your realtor? Have you submitted any offers yet? If so, how did that go, right? And then here's the ones that really get their attention. Are you tracking the coming soon properties? And a lot of times they'll be like, wait, you know, they look at you with like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking. They might not have a clue that some cities and states allow us to see coming soon that might not make it to Zillow yet, right? But they are on the MLS. And then the last one is the one that I mentioned earlier. Hey, where you want to mention, hey, we have off-market inventory due to our investor relationships. And if they are listening, this will get their attention, like I mentioned, in a competitive seller market with low inventory. And then you follow that up. Would you like to hear of those opportunities? If so, check if they provided their phone number on the sign-in sheet. And if not, ask them for it. Mention that you know of 2 homes on the market in the area. This is, again, going back to that tip. Look for properties. So if that actually is true, this is a great thing to incorporate. And ask if they would like to look at them right now. And that would shock some buyers. Like, you mean like right now? Like, yeah, right now. And you could do that if, like I said, if you have a lender that's doing maybe the open house with you, or another agent partner. I know agents like to team up sometimes. Like, I know, Eric does it with his wife. That's easy. But if you're a solo agent, then consider partnering up with someone like a lender, right? Then that gives you the ability to skip out, leave the open house literally with this potential client that walked in, and you literally were like, yeah, let's go take a look at some of these properties that I just told you about that are off market, right? Powerful, I'm telling you guys. And if the properties listed nearby are occupied, preset the showings with the listing agents and have them available to show in your back pocket, okay? If you don't get anyone to go look at them with you, call back that listing agent and apologize that your client changed their mind, period. And I'll end here. It looks like we have 9 minutes left, but any questions on any of this? Comments? Same thing with you, Eric. Anything you would add?
No, everything looked good to me. I just think it's the thing where if there's like one theme to everything we do, it's like, how can you add value? So how can you use open houses to add value to your investors, which is therefore going to make them want to use you? How can you use this as well to leverage your own business? Like, there's so many positives to it, but when you take this job and you take it really seriously and do a really good job and you're providing value, it's usually a positive. See what the chats are.
I am looking at the chat. Oh yeah, so Valley said to have the dancing man. Yeah, that will grab people's attention.
Yeah.
Anything to stand out. Sandwich board that mentions offers like ask me about financing options few people know about. Yep. I am stealing that one. Eric said, okay, I'm just looking through the chat. To offer upfront home warranty for the first year. Awesome. Mastermind to ask an opening question. Are you actively looking to buy a home, or are you comparing home values, or are you getting ideas for updating your home? Perfect questions to ask that require a answer and not just a yes or a no. It's a very engaging questions that you put there, Valley. I love it. And then Kevin, I'm going to drive around Cardiff this afternoon and see if there are any rehabs going on. Come on. Yes, Kevin. Do it, buddy.
Especially in the neighborhood where the median sale price is like $3 million.
Yeah, that's a good market. So we don't have enough time to do breakout rooms today, but maybe we can just open it up for any other comments, questions, anything you want to ask us about this topic, or maybe any other topic, since you have us here. Everybody's good?
Can you just repeat that thing that you mentioned a few minutes back when saying to investors that you'd offer 10% of your commission? Is I was taking other notes, so I didn't quite get all of it, but if you just repeat that point.
All that is imagine you approach JD, right?
Yep.
And JD is someone Kevin and I know. He was one of my partners at CT Homes, the flipping company. But imagine you approached him and say, hey, JD, can I get first dibs on some of your open houses? And I'm willing to give you 10% from any client that I get from your open house specifically, if they buy your house on another house.
Okay.
Right. Guaranteed. No one says that ever. Right.
Yeah.
But would you get their attention potentially? Probably, right? And because someone like CT Homes, they have many agent relationships at this point, right? So how do you get to the top of that list? This is one way, right?
Yep.
With money. Money talks. But good question. Anybody else?
It's Billy. I've given a couple of my investors who have come back to me multiple times and a portion of my commission towards their loan costs so that they can use it as a credit to either buy down rate, or they can, closing costs, whatever's allowable on their loan. So, and that has caused repeat business for me.
Love it. Yep. I love that example, especially like in a timely, that's a very timely offer, right? where interest rates is like that pain factor, right? For buyers. And if you are upfront and aggressive about that opportunity offer, I guess, with the investor, look, here's the pain points, interest rates. What if I, instead of lowering my commission, what if I take a portion of my commission and offer to buy down the rate on your behalf? Brilliant. I love it, Valley. Cool. All right. I don't think we have anything else. Anything else, guys? Anybody?
I was gonna
Any
say too,
questions?
I can't take credit for a lot of these ideas, as I noted in here. They're from other masterminds. I'm just a really good student. I like to say I'm a good student. I'm willing to learn from other people's
That's all
success.
That's all that matters. That's awesome. And then you take them and you use them, and
Yeah.
that's where it typically goes well.
Yeah. Tweak them a little bit to what works for you, but bottom line, everything we are learning is from other people. So everything we're doing is from other people. Like that's the world we live in. Like we borrow people's information. We learn from books. We learn from the Bible. I mean, we're not some people that just come up with everything ourselves, right? We learn from one another. It's about sharing. So that's hence why we're doing this group, right?
Yeah.
We want not only our agents that we have in our organization at EXP, but others to understand the value of working with investors, and also investors understanding the value of working with good realtors, right? So hopefully if you're an investor here only, some light bulbs went off, like, oh crap, I've been working with the wrong realtors. I better find some good ones like Valley, right?
Yeah.
Or Kevin. So
No, yeah, for sure. It's something too, like, I'd say most of the agents that work with investors that I've seen and the areas I've worked, they'll never run open houses. So I always reach out to them and save them. So like, if I ever need business, I'm like, those are the first people I call. Cause like they won't, typically they're just like, it's a good thing, but they're like, I'm not going to run an open house, but I leverage that for my teams to get more leads. So it's free leads.
Yep. All right, cool. We are done. Top of the hour. Thank you guys. See you in October. Later.
See you guys.